Well, good morning to all of you, and it's great to see you. It is cold and wet outside. I didn't know if we'd have 5 people or a good crowd, so it's good to see you this morning. Maybe you want to get outside a little bit. It is surely winter. And Happy New Year to you, since this is our first Sunday together in the new year, and it's just begun. So let me ask you a question. Did you make a resolution, or how many of you made resolutions? Do y'all do that? Do you think about it? A few nods? Do some of you not do that? Just let it go? Yeah, you just like bored with it. Rick says he's too old to do it anymore. Yeah, I got that. Yeah, me too. Okay, for all of you slackers, I have one for you this morning. If you didn't make one, I have one for you. Some of you know that I spend some of my time driving back and forth to our family property. So I spend a lot of time on Interstate 40 and a lot of time in the great state of Arkansas on Interstate 40, across the river from Memphis. And when I went over after Christmas to kind of go over there for a few days, I noticed something, but I had to see it about 3 times before it registered in my brain. And amazingly, the Arkansas Department of Transportation has electronic signboards now in its state. It has come of age. And amazingly, about the 3rd time I saw it, I started from Memphis and got over to Forest City and on. And about the 3rd sign I saw, I realized it's the same message. You ready? It's a resolution. So here's what's on the electric sign. It comes up, use your blinker. Next panel, new year. Next panel, new you. And I went, God, that is cool. And it took me a minute to register what that's about. And then I started thinking about it. So join me in thinking about it. Who knew that the Arkansas DOT could be so clever? Be courteous, use your blinker. Or maybe in 2023, just be courteous. And actually I thought, that is really cool. And you know, the Arkansas DOT is right. It is a new year. And maybe it can be a new you and a new me in some way. Because after all, isn't that what resolutions really are? We can act like they're trivial. I don't think they're trivial. And when I talk to some of you, you talk to me about things that you expect and intend. Someone said, I call them intentions. What they talked about were not trivial things, they were important things. But it's been around, it's part of our jargon, it's part of what we do. We do resolutions this time of year. What are the 3 big? What are they? What are the 3 top ones year after year for the last 50 years? What are they? What's number 1? Lose weight. You got it. Okay, I'm sick of it already. Failed already. What's number 2? Eat healthy. Maybe that should be number 1. And then finally, exercise more. And then you go down from there, and I promise you the same ones are the top 10 year after year. And they're all good, but you know, resolutions don't quite match all that stuff because, well, we don't really resolve anything, do we? No, we intend something. So resolution's not quite the right word, but it's the word we use. Let's be honest, we really want a better year. Do you want a better year than you had last year? Well, let me ask it the other way. Which of you doesn't want a better year than the year you had last year? Come on, work with me. I know it's cold and it's wet. You're going to have to work with me. It's bad comedy. But seriously, they are something we want. We want to improve something about ourselves. I want a better me this year. I always want a better me, don't you? A little bit. I want to improve something. I want to get something out of the way, put something in, take something, whatever. Change, shift the direction of my life. That's not a trivial thing. And by the way, if you do want a better 2023, I hope you get one. I do. I hope you do too, want a better one. You know, when you peel everything away, resolutions are really about hope, aren't they? They really are. And there's no one who doesn't need more hope. No one. I have a resolution you're going to like. I have a resolution to preach shorter sermons. Not kidding, but I'm not quite through. Not kidding about that either. But you can time if you want to. You know, today we start 2023 the way that the first Christians did. So your Episcopal one-on-one question is, when does the church calendar start? First New Year is what day? Advent 1. Thank you. The rest of you fail. Go home and do 20 push-ups. The person that said it's correct. You see, in the early church, I know you're not going to believe this day, with this star, with this candle, was more important than Christmas. Epiphany was the day, and they started the new year every year with this story. It was the first story of the church year on Sunday. And while technically Epiphany is the 6th, we always put it on Sunday for that reason, for the people who did it before us. You see, they start the new year with this story, and what better story is it? It's the most known story that we've imported, or exported, I should say, to the world. Everybody knows this story. They may not know a thing about the Bible. I promise you, they know this story. Culture knows this story. And what a powerful story it is that these wise men hear about that there's been a birth. And they follow a star. You know, the star's not moving, by the way. You get that impression? No, it's actually more real than that. Have you ever watched a star or a rainbow or something in the sky? It actually does look like it's over something, like on top of it. Well, see, they followed it to the point that the apex was literally that they thought they had found it. It's right there. And what did they find? Mother Mary and a baby. And then they present him gifts of gold and frankincense and myrrh that we just sang about. The best known, best loved story, I think, maybe from our tradition. What's interesting is, you know, Jesus didn't, in their language, in the language that Jesus spoke, they didn't call them wise men. They called them another word that you know. They called them magi. They were people who were searching. They were magi. So we call this day then what? The gifts of the magi, right? They bring their gifts. And in the tradition of their world, see, these men were from Persia. And in the Persian faith, they knew about the Jewish hope for Messiah. And they longed for that Messiah as well. And so they went to look. They went to search. So fast forward gently with me. Don't lose this. So Jesus grows up, and what's he start teaching? About searching, looking for lost coins and surprises, the very thing that you've hoped for and could not find, pearls of great price, and I'm just starting. Do you understand this powerful, strong image of searching becomes for Jesus a metaphor for your faith? Your faith is searching, period. Don't embellish it. It's searching. He doesn't even tell us what you do when you find it, other than you're surprised and thankful that you search. Any of you old like me and watch Masterpiece Theater? You got to be old to watch that, I guess. I don't know. Well, everyone starts with a commercial from the person or the company that gives the most money to produce it. Viking Cruise Lines. And I can hear his voice. In fact, I probably could do it sight unseen and tell you exactly what he says. We've watched so much of it. But what's powerful is the CEO of Viking talks a little bit about his family and his life growing up. And then he says one other thing of value that he learned from his family was to be curious. To be curious. And the first time I heard it, and now for the 15,000th time I've heard it, I find it appealing every time I do hear it. And I guess the idea is if you get on a Viking cruise, you will be curious. I don't know. They're selling something, pretty good thing to sell. Do you understand? I think that is exactly what we're talking about this morning. That searching is living in curiosity. You don't have to be so sure. You don't have to know it all. For God's sake, I mean this, for God's sake, you do not have to have all the answers to have faith. And many of you have been taught that so much that you can't almost get rid of it. So I hope whatever you do this year, that you will add to your resolution list to be curious. To be curious in 2023 at every opportunity and every turn of life, especially when it comes to your faith and your relationship in God. Be curious. Now, I know, like all resolutions, every one of them, the evidence is clear. We fall back into our old patterns quickly, don't we? We really do. We fall right back. And in faith, I think we have the same patterns. We'll fall right back into, you know what church is all about? You're supposed to be good, and you ain't. But I want to tell you, when that happens to you, do yourself a favor, do the church a favor. Look in the mirror and say to yourself, be curious. And then maybe ask yourself, why? Why is it that I need to be so good? Or why is it I think I'm not so good? Or when you fall back into that everything in faith and in Christianity is reduced to one thing, which is morality, which is wonderful in its own. That's what we really learn. The apex of all learning is to be moral. That's fine. I agree with it at some level. But I hope you'll look in the mirror and ask yourself and tell yourself, be curious. Why is it that morality is where we put the top apex? And there are many other things that are just as important. And yeah, I know you're going to fall back. You're going to read the Bible every day and you're going to pray every day. Well, you're not going to do it. You're going to fail like I am. But I hope when you fall back, you'll look in that mirror and say to yourself, be curious. Be curious. There's so many ways that we act out our faith. There are so many ways that we give ourselves to others through our faith. Maybe we give ourselves a 2023 that's not so narrow. Practice being curious. Practice searching, looking, watching. Instead of making statements, ask questions. And I promise you, I'll join you in that behavior. You know, this morning we do something so ancient from the very beginning of our life together as Christians. The first story was going to be doing what we're doing with Beatrice and Henry this morning, is bring them to baptism, is to help them into this way of life. You wouldn't be here otherwise on a cold, rainy morning if it wasn't important. It becomes singularly important in some ways we almost can't touch or know, that becomes so deep in us, so abiding, so important that it's life-changing. Well, we can't say all that this morning. We, though, enhance, reinforce, and push them along and ask them to come with us on that. And your job and mine is to make sure they keep doing that. And with that, to do what Jesus taught, as much as Jesus taught anything, is to search. Search diligently through their lives, to be open and to be curious, to ask questions, be demanding about the answers, but to look about all things, including things about God and faith. If we do our job, they will benefit as many of us have benefited. There is nothing that you have ever done last year or in any year of your life. There is nothing that you can or will not do in 2023 that will separate you from God. That was God's gift when God came to your manger at your birth. God gave God's self to you, each of you personally, period. It's either that or the Christian gospel is not only naive, it is wrong. It is that simple. And we can embrace that every day. And we embrace it this morning with Beatrice and Henry. God has purpose for their life. They are not an accident. Their probably venture here is not an accident. I don't understand that. But I pray that we will help them be curious in that as well. Who am I? Who am I in God? And there is nothing that they will ever do that will drive God away. And the same is for you and me. So, tomorrow when you're searching, what will happen? You'll find God. Amen.